The Iron Chariot by Stein Riverton. Translated by Lucy Moffat. Read by Barnaby Jago at Pinewood Studios, 2018. Chapter 1. 3 people running. It was perhaps approaching 11 in the morning, and most of the summer guests at the boarding house had gradually drifted out after breakfast to set up camp on the grass in front of the veranda. After several chilly days, the stagnating heat of summer had finally arrived. It had rained in the night, but the bad weather had cleared at around 7, and the sun had then sparkled the whole morning through, drying the grass and soil, steaming away the puddles and baking the roads hard and white. And now the summer guests rejoiced over the arrival at last of the great, driving summer, with its vast abundance of heat. And so they had laid themselves out in the baking sun, lay prostrate now, scattered in the high grass, squinting at the quivering light, and lending an ear to the whisper out at sea. They listened for the summer breeze, which prized itself loose out in the ocean and glided over the rocky crests, penetrating the spruce forest, which sapped its feeble strength, and faltering over the meadows, where it barely managed to shake the grass and tickle the faces of the resting people. From where I lay in the grass, I had a glimpse of a white muslin bodice, a woman's golden neck and hair, slowly stirring. But if I turned my head a trifle, my gaze fell upon the hotel awning, its bright red stripes set in charming disarray by the play of the sunbeams. 5 people lay in the grass around me. All were seemingly asleep, although none were sleeping. Of the white-clad lady to my left, I knew that she was resting her face in both hands, and had a novel open before her, but not once did I hear her turn its pages. And nobody said a word. We were all compelled to absolute inactivity, and had a lingering sense that little by little, the heat was stifling all will and all energy. We might lie this way for years, for who could be bothered to so much as twitch a foot, or lift a head, or turn the pages of a novel? Even thought, which never rests, was dulled, for who could be bothered to think? And there was no longer any need to listen for the whisper out at sea. Even our ears were shut now and then. The sounds slipped by. We heard sporadically, a bumblebee buzzing perhaps, a gate slamming closed. I knew that a parrot hung in a cage in the middle of the sunny wall of the hotel. No doubt it felt its feathers grow warm, yearned to shift its bony old carcass. I could hear it grab the metal bars with its beak and swing, but then a gate slammed shut again, so hard this time that the hinges jangled. Shortly afterwards, I heard a voice close by me saying, "Do you see that?" What was there to see? For who could be bothered to lift their head? Then came the sound of footsteps from the road down below, hasty footsteps. It must be a man and a woman running. I could hear the tramp of the man's boots and the slap of the lady's skirts. I stood up, my eyes blinded by the immensity of the sun, which sparkled and shattered in the air. "Look there," said the white-clad lady by my side. She pointed, and through the blinding white apple trees, I now saw what was going on in the road. 3 people were running. First came a quick little bare-legged lad. After him, a man no longer young, a local, dressed in blue shirt-sleeves with a threadbare little straw hat in one hand. Last came the lady, one of the summer guests, but she was trailing far behind, hindered by her white dress. She tried to gather it up, but failed, and so she ran onwards, her frock flapping like a white flag. "Perhaps there's an angry bull," said the lady by my side, but that couldn't possibly be the explanation, because then the people would have no need to run, as the gate was shut fast behind them. By now, all we sluggish summer folk had roused ourselves. Some stood up and raised a hand to shade their eyes. The runners were heading in our direction. A low fence separated the hotel grounds from the road. There was a small opening in this fence, with a wooden bar you merely had to push aside to pass through. The lad and the man reached it at almost the same time, but now the most comical thing happened. They were both in such a hurry that they got into a terrible muddle over this simple bar, fumbling at it and clearly quite confused as to whether they should jump over it, break it to pieces, crawl under it, or push it aside. And the sole result of all this fuss was that the lady in the white dress caught up with them. The lad proved to be the brightest of the 3. He hopped over the fence a little further down, fell to his knees, got up again, and hurried towards us. Once the man was left to his own devices, he quickly managed to shove the bar aside. The 3 people reached us at almost the same time, and we could tell at once from their gestures that something strange had happened. But they were all too upset to be able to tell their tale straight away. The man, the local, sputtered intelligibly, his eyes bulging with fear, unable to find the words. The lady, quite out of breath, pressed her hand to her breast. But the lad was also quickest of speech. The lad was the first to tell the tale. It was still so early in the summer that only 6 or 7 holiday guests had arrived. Of these, 3 were ladies, who worked at a large company in Christiania, where staff holidays were portioned out among the employees from mid-May until late September. The summer season proper had not yet begun, but the ladies had to content themselves with taking their holiday whenever their turn should come. And then there were 4 of us gentlemen, an old bank clerk, a young student, a forestry inspector, and the writer of these lines. So far we had been more than a little unlucky with the weather, blustery by day, chilly by night, and overcast. But then one day the summer flared up abruptly, heavy with heat and glowing with sun, and that is why the joy was so general. The idle well-being so pleasant on that morning we were disturbed by 3 people running along the road. The little place where we now found ourselves was, incidentally, an exceedingly popular destination for summer guests, especially in July and August. A few short minutes' walk through a young spruce forest, and before us lay the sea. Far out there in the dark nights burned the beams of the lighthouse, flickering like northern lights across the sky. It was a fairly low landscape, an immense and somewhat rugged island. Very little of the land was cultivated, at least in the vicinity of the hotel, but a great plain stretched dozens of miles into its interior, a plain filled with heaps of rocks deposited by the moraine. Here and there, small tarns twinkled and riverbeds ran, and between them were marshy expanses overgrown with bushes and undergrowth. Far out on this plain lay Gyane Farm, on a carpet of green, well-tended fields and lush gardens. By day, a glimpse of it was visible from the gable room of the summer hotel, and by night, from the same vantage point, lights could be seen twinkling in the windows of the farm. When I arrived at the hotel, I expressly requested the gable room so that I could enjoy the magnificent view across the plain at my pleasure. I knew the people on the farm from previous visits, a brother and sister called Carsten and Hilda Gyane. Across the plain ran an old road that led with many twists and turns past the heaped rocks, around the tarns, over the brooks, and through the undergrowth and brushwood. A much favoured route for a stroll. It took you from the summer hotel to the farm in half an hour or so. Once there, an opportunity might arise to greet Hilda, who was young and beautiful, or strike up a conversation with Carsten Gyane. And in both cases, the excursion could be reckoned a success. On the evening before the events I shall now recount, I had taken a walk across the plain. I left the hotel just after 9:30, once the evening meal was over. I was alone and walked with some haste, for the evening air felt chill and clammy. A little after 10 o'clock, I found myself close to the farm, and thought there might be some sport in a conversation, a hand of cards or a game of chess with Carsten Gyane. It was precisely the time at which he was in the habit of settling down in his study to fritter away the hours until midnight. I took it for granted that I would be welcome, since Carsten Gyane was a man inclined to be sociable, and I knew him fairly well. But I must confess, I had another little hidden motive. What if Hilda had not retired for the night? Might I perhaps have a chance to exchange a few words with her? She was, as I have said, a very pretty girl, and here in this wilderness I was feeling the lack of a woman's company. I found the 3 highly strung business ladies of the hotel quite unbearable with their constant prattle, about whether they were growing fat or turning brown, or whether I would like to accompany them to some spot where they could pick water lilies. I went through the garden gate and into the farmyard where the black dog Hector lay in his kennel. He growled and then, when I feigned not to notice, waddled out slowly, dragging his chain behind him. He kept on howling and growling, which caused me some puzzlement, for Hector had always struck me as a placid dog. As I was about to go through the front door, the farm steward came up and barred my way. "Pardon me," he said. "The squire cannot be disturbed right now." I stood staring at the man. "What is the matter?" I asked. "Are you ill?" The man was pale. I could see it despite the dim light. He stood there in the passageway, leaning against the doorframe. That could signify he was so weak he was close to collapse, but it could also mean that he would not let me pass at any price, and intended, by blocking the doorway, to show that I should not come by him. "I am not ill," he said. "Is your master ill, then?" "No." "Does he have visitors?" "No. He has absolutely no visitors. He is alone with his sister." I did not entirely understand why I was being denied entry, so I continued with my questions. "Can it be that I have caused him some offence?"
Sample complete. Ready to continue?